Hello. Yes, this story requires me to wear my glasses. Definitely. And I put my little lightning on. And I don't know why sometimes it goes to reconnect or the light goes out. I don't know. It's an old phone, but it's what I'm used to. Anyway, good evening. Yes, I'm still very tan. Do not adjust your sets. Now, I have a couple of things before I read this chapter. Several of you, a lot of you, have asked how to get my books. And I tell you to go to the books page, the icon that says books, and you'll see it says Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You scroll down, hospice book. It's all on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You just have to ask for it, and they order it. Amazon is what most people do because they get it delivered. A lot of people live in smaller areas and they don't have a Barnes & Noble. But any bookstore can do it. You just have to tell them. Believe me, it's a real story. It's a real book. So I spoke with my publisher, and you can't get them anymore from her. It strictly goes through a bookstore or a vendor like Amazon. I can order books, and people can order books that they're authors, but she stopped doing the individual people thing. So that's one of them. Secondly, hi Jeffrey. Secondly, I had my first person from Sweden. No, it wasn't Sweden, it was Switzerland. How can you get them mixed up? It was Switzerland. Beautiful country. So that's wonderful. This is the World Wide Web. I forget I am speaking to the world. And this story I want to get into because I can personally relate to this one a lot. And you'll know why at the end. And several of you right now who are going to watch this now or a week from now or a month from now are going to understand it for real because you may never have experienced it. Most of my stories perhaps you've never experienced. But for 24, we're doing 23 tonight. We're doing 24 tomorrow night. Friday, I'm reading the little table of contents, and I'm taking a week off. But these stories are ready-made for a series. Touched by an Angel was in the 80s or 90s, and it was magnificent. These stories with the right director, the right producer, and the right one person being me, like a Sandra Bullock, or someone like that being me through the whole thing, with different cast of characters, it's phenomenal. Or if you had the same cast of characters, they could just play different roles. I mean, a man would have to be a man, a woman would have to be a woman, or really screw everything up. But in general, this is ready-made. I thought my book would do it. I'm telling you right now, who's ever out there who wants a streaming movie in a series with 24 chapters, this book is it. All right, so we've got Switzerland. I also said now I can relate to this one. Let me put these glasses back on while I read it. Okay, chapter 23, and I held their hands with a hospice heart. Okay, Amazon and Barnes & Noble. I must get the plug in. So, chapter 23, the story of this woman felt that the treatment was worse than the disease, and she chose to have quality of life rather than suffer through the treatments. Hi, Wendy. This woman felt that the treatments was worse than the disease, and she wanted quality of life rather than go through more treatments. This was my Jeffrey. This was it. He had enough hospitals, enough there about pneumonia. He wanted quality of life, and that was the way it worked. So that's the story of this woman. Now I'll take these off and put the real ones on because I can't see. Here. Okay. This one. So the woman chose to stop. She wanted quality of life rather than treatments, which were really killing her. Quote, human nature causes us to fight. Instinct drives us to survive, but the will to determines how we choose to die. Here it is. Quote, human nature causes us to fight. Instinct drives us to survive, but the will to live determines how we choose to die. That's really profound stuff, and I don't remember doing a lot of it. Plus, I've never read this book. You know that by now. I don't read my stuff. All right, to April 2000. Geez, that was great. Human nature causes us to fight. True. Instinct drives us to survive. True. But the will to live determines how we choose to die. Really true. Choice. Dear Jeff, shortly after we were married, you wanted me to clean your teeth. Oh, this one was in my book, too. You came to the VA hospital where I worked, and you got into the chair. I put the aspirator in your mouth and started checking your teeth. 5 minutes later, you pulled the aspirator from your mouth, jumped up, and left without saying a word. When I got home, I asked you why you did that. You said, I didn't like it. It was uncomfortable. I'm not good at handling pain. Yeah, true. I said, I was checking your teeth and hadn't even started your cleaning. If you think that experience was unpleasant, I hope you never lose any teeth from gum disease. Later that evening, you said, I'm sorry for my childish behavior. I've never been good with doctors and medicine. Can we try again? A week later, you sat in the chair. You sat in the chair white-knuckled and in a cold sweat, but you had your teeth cleaned. You also made a big production out of taking a pill. I'd watch you stare at it until you got up enough courage to pick it up. Then you placed it on the back of your tongue and threw your head back, almost like he was going to get whiplash. I don't know why you didn't choke on it or wrench your neck. I watched you bury them in ice cream and press them into chocolate chip cookies just to get them down. I'm grateful for the first 23 years of our marriage because you experienced very, very little discomfort or pain. It was horrible. Hi, David. Welcome back. I mean, he fainted when we had to take blood. I mean, then you had to check for syphilis and stuff. You had to get blood. He fainted. Early in 1990, yeah, he did. He fainted when we got married, and they had to take blood to check for syphilis. Boy, those times changed a lot. Early in 1992, we both knew that you were becoming symptomatic of something serious. Your breathing became labored, and you started to snore. You sounded like you were gasping for air. You tired easily and had to stop eating to catch your breath. Your appetite diminished, and you lost weight. Your hair started falling out, and your skin developed rashes and lesions. You had a dry, hacking cough that wouldn't go away. You were once a healthy man who never knew much pain and suffering. But on June 20th, 1992, that would change. Now you were a patient in the hospital, fighting for your life. June 20th, he got diagnosed on June 19th, and on June 20th, he was put in the hospital, and his fighting for life would begin. The doctors and the medicines that you avoided all these years had now become the very things that could save your life. Your body was pricked, jabbed, and punctured several times a day. You inhaled drugs that made you gag. You swallowed dozens of monstrous-sized pills that made you choke. You had to endure painful treatments and difficult procedures. When the medications and treatments made you violently ill, you continued through this torturous hell. You endured it because you wanted to live. You learned how to become a good patient because you didn't have a choice. Here we go, the story. Last night at the care center, I met a woman who decided to stop her treatments. Hi, Jack. So, my husband knew very little discomfort up until 1992. Didn't like pills, fainted when we had to get blood, almost choked on pills. That was it. Now, the reason why I do this story I can relate to is because this woman chose to have quality of life rather than the treatments. Last night at the care center, I met a woman who decided to stop her treatments because she didn't want to endure any more suffering. She had come to the end of her battle, and she wanted to take charge of her life again. Her courage, these stories I keep saying, they're not sad stories. They're courage stories, their hope and their faith. Her courage and strength to make that decision reminded me of you. I gathered up my cart and set off down the hall. When I went into her room to bring her some fresh water, I noticed a beautiful quilt draped across the foot of the bed. "Hello," she said. Do you have a vodka martini in that pitcher?" I replied. "Did you want olives or a twist of lemon?" I mean, it's the way I treat people. I noticed a beautiful quilt draped across the foot of her bed. "Hello," she said. "Do you have a vodka martini in that pitcher?" I replied. "Did you want olives or a twist of lemon?" "My name is Susan. I'm your volunteer bartender for the night." "My name is Susan. I'm your volunteer bartender for the night." "No," she said. "Plain vodka will be fine." I said, "Other than that martini, is there anything else you would like?" "No," she responded. "I'm fine." I said, "That's the most magnificent quilt I've ever seen." Her face lit up, and she replied, "I loved making quilts, and this one was my favorite." My daughter brought it in. "It's been raining all day, and my quilt makes me feel warm and cozy." I said, "Would you like some company?" "Yes," she replied. "I'd love to bore you with my story." Hi, Andy. She said, here's the story. She says, "I'm 69 years old." What is it? She said, "I'm 69 years young, but I'm 70 years old. I've had emphysema for 5 years, but it wasn't until they found the lung cancer this year that I knew that was it. I had to quit smoking after 50 years. It's the hardest thing I ever had to do. I went cold turkey 6 months ago, and it's been hell. I want one all the time. I also made a decision to give up something else. I stopped my cancer treatments and took myself off all my medications. I was in agony. The treatments were killing me more than the disease." She continues, "I couldn't eat, swallow, or breathe. I'd rather have no pain and a quality of life than be at the mercy of drugs." My eyes welled up with tears. I wasn't prepared for her remarks. It was like reliving your final months all over again. People, you are relating. I know some of you are relating, and I know some of you want to see these stories made come to life. Let me get this one again. My eyes welled up with tears, and I wasn't prepared for her remarks. It was like reliving your final months all over again. She said the same things that you did when you made your decision to stop your treatments. I said, "I understand what you're saying. My husband was ill for 2 years. 3 months ago he said he couldn't go through any more procedures. He was tired of fighting. He wanted quality of life rather than quantity of days. Whenever I hear this from someone, it always reminds me of him. Would you tell me specifically why you made this decision?" "Yes," she said. "I'm not going anywhere in this weather." These people I met had amazing sense of humor, a lot of them. I mean, even though they were on their ends of transitioning to the end, they were amazing. These people give you strength. This series made on a streaming service could come to life, and people would be riveted. 5 years ago, I was having difficulty catching my breath. I couldn't walk upstairs, do my housework, and didn't have any energy. The doctor said I had emphysema, and he told me to quit smoking. He put me on inhalation treatments, oxygen, and medication. I cut back on my physical activity and slowed down, but I couldn't quit smoking. Last year, I began having sharp, stabbing pains up my spine. They weren't consistent, and there wasn't any one thing that triggered these violent attacks. When they happened, I was left frozen for hours in the same position. I was afraid to move for fear of another pain. Several doctors and many tests later, a CAT scan showed a large tumor in my left lung. It was inoperable because of the damage from the emphysema. Some of you are going through this with your family. The doctors were bombarding me with facts, went through that in another chapter, statistics, and different options for treatment. I was so confused and didn't know what to do. When I spoke with my family, everyone agreed that I had to try something. Since the tumor couldn't be surgically removed, I took a chance that chemotherapy and radiation might shrink it. The doctor said that I had a year to live if the treatments worked, or I might have 6 months to a year if I did nothing. I said that I'll try anything to stay alive. I was scheduled for 12 treatments. I was on pain medication and shooting paralyzing pains in my back had stopped. I was eating again and I was scheduled for 12 treatments. I was on pain medication and the shooting paralyzing pains in my back had stopped. I was eating again and breathing was easier. The first 3 treatments weren't a problem and I felt fine. But the 4th one was horrible. I broke out in open cankerous lesions in my mouth, esophagus, and my stomach. The pain was so intense, I couldn't breathe, eat, drink, or swallow. The doctors determined that the radiation, it's happened to several people that I know personally, the radiation wouldn't work. Again, I said that I wanted to live and would try chemotherapy. I had 1 treatment and my blood pressure went soaring. I almost had a stroke. I told my doctors and my family that the treatments were killing me more than the disease. I said that I wanted to spend whatever time I had left without pain with my family and that I wanted quality of life. I would rather have 6 months like a human being than to endure a year of unnecessary pain, suffering, pity. It's my body and my choice. I'll go on the hospice program when the time comes. I said, you sound like my husband. He suffered through the disease. He didn't need to go through anything else. You are very strong and courageous. I'm thankful that a stormy night and your beautiful quilt that brought us together. I wish you a peaceful night's sleep. She said, thank you for coming in. I'm glad you liked my quilt. Next time, however, please bring the Camels along with the vodka. Camels were cigarettes. I don't even know if they're made anymore, but that's what I smoked when I smoked and as a teenager and up until I was 22. Camels, along with the vodka. Good night. I kissed her forehead and left. I stood outside her door and started to cry. She brought up a very emotional and painful issue for me. Just like you, she made a choice. And just like you, she took control back of her life. Her honesty and openness about her decision helped me to understand why you chose to do what you did. She was at peace with herself, and her remarkable faith was inspirational. Faith and hope in my stories. These are not negative stories. These are life stories that are real about people who had courage and had choice and went on to go and do what they knew what they wanted to do. Rosemary. Anyway, she was at peace with herself and her remarkable faith was inspirational. The reasons why people stop their treatments or medications are different, but the reason why they made the decision remains the same. It's about quality of life and respect for that person's choice to have that quality. There comes a time in many people's lives when it is time to say, I don't want to go through it anymore. You were in the hospital 3 times in 2 years, Jeff. I watched you endure inhalation treatments that made you cough and choke. You never complained. I watched vials and vials of blood being taken from your veins. Then I watched your veins collapse. I watched your beautiful body become a human pincushion. But you never complained. We sat in a cold, sterile hospital rooms and in doctors' offices while you waited anxiously for x-rays and tests. I watched you take dozens of pills several times a day, hoping that one of them would buy you time and give you some quality. I watched as these toxic drugs poisoned your system, making you nauseous and giving you diarrhea. This is for people out there. Oh, my goddaughter is watching. Hi, Keisha. Don't say anything. I'm in the middle of this. I love you. It's about time you got in touch with me. I watched as these toxic drugs poisoned your system, making you nauseous and giving you diarrhea. Still, you took them and endured their vicious side effects. You never complained. You spent a day in the hospital hoping that a blood transfusion would build your immune system up. I took you home with hiccups that remained with you for 6 weeks until you died. You were too ill then to do anything but cry. I watched as you followed the doctor's instructions, doing whatever they told you to do. You did these things without hesitation, and I watched you become the best patient anyone could become. I remember the look you gave me. This is it. I remember the look you gave me in the kitchen that told me you couldn't endure this suffering any longer. With your eyes, you told me that you had had enough. You didn't want any more medications, injections, or treatments. You were more miserable than ever. I understood what you wanted to do. You decided to take charge of your life again. You said that this disease wasn't going to rob you of the one thing, wasn't going to rob you of one thing you'd always had. Quality. Quality. You would have quality during your remaining days. You stayed at home. Hospice came in and helped, and we stayed together through it all. It was your love for life that enabled you to endure those 2 years with courage and dignity. I hope that I'll be able to endure the suffering I continue to have as I live my days without you. You give me hope when I have none and strength when I am weak. Thank you. I'll stay so long for a little while. I love you, Susan. So I'm sure there are people out there who can relate. And if you're not relating now, you're going to relate someday. You can't avoid death. You may think, oh, well, I'm 18 or 22 and it's not going to happen and I'm fine. Yeah, you're fine. If you're blessed to live long enough, you're going to die. I mean, that's the reality of life. You live, you've got so many days, and you die. You can't make this stuff up. I happen to be good at it because I've been through a lot of it. And it's not even good. It's just the writing. So these stories, would someone please connect me to someone who wants to make a series on Hulu or Prime or somebody. These hospice stories must be shared with the world in a streaming service. My book, Committed to Love, my story. Great movie, but hospice. The hospice stories are a deal breaker. So I'm going to say thank you. Keisha, I will speak with you tomorrow. I go to sleep after I read, as people know. I love the boys. Thank you. I do have a goddaughter in California and 3 godchildren that I am a godmother to. Keisha, stay alive for a very, very, very long time. I am not equipped to handle it. No. I love you. A thumbs up. I love you dearly. All of you. I thank you for the new people who come on. I always say I don't know how you found me, or Rodney. I don't know how people find each other except they're telling people. So, that's my story for today. You got a story? Write it. Write your story down. Because one day you don't know who it's going to help or where it's going to go. Right. And don't just click on a phone. Don't just click on a phone or on a computer. Why don't you get a pen? A really good gel pen and a journal. Write it. Write your stuff down right today. You've got a couple things you could write down today. You don't know where it's going to go. God bless you all. Shalom. Hello. Shalom. Some people say, what shalom? Shalom means hello, means goodbye, and it means peace. May you have some peace. And that's it. I will say thank you. Be kind. Be patient. And call someone and tell you you care. I have someone staying with me for a few days, so I'm not calling anybody. I'm going to sleep. I'm going to have pizza and sleep. I'll speak with some of you tomorrow for sure. And that's it. I'm going to hit finish. And I thank you all so much. Let me hit finish, a close-up. Oh my heavens. Finish. God bless you all. Thank you.